What's up, guys? Welcome back to Among the Fence, my YouTube channel where I talk about music and do reviews on albums and EPs and singles. Thank you for joining me on another Request Wednesday. I am your host, Aaron, and today we're going to be talking about the album Reluctant Hero by the band Killer Be Kiled. I wasn't aware of this until I started listening to this album, but Killer Be Kiled is a heavy metal supergroup, and I started to realize that a lot of stuff in here sounds very familiar, especially vocally and even in the riffs in the guitar tone and a lot of different things. That's because for guitar and vocalists, they have Greg Puciato from Dillinger Escape Plan. They have Max Cavalera from Soulfly. On bass, they have Troy Sanders, who also does vocals, who is from Mastodon. And on the drums, they have Koller from Converge. And all these guys are absolutely, they're pretty much legends. As far as I'm concerned, in my world, they're pretty much legends in their own right. And after listening to this, hearing the different vocal styles, like I listened to it a few times, I'm like, damn, all this sounds like, everything in this sounds so familiar to me, and I couldn't figure out why, and I Googled it, and I'm like, oh, this is why, because I know like every one of these guys. However, out of all these bands, Dillinger, Converge, Soulfly, Mastodon, the one that I frequent the most is easily Mastodon. I own a couple of their albums, a couple of their records. I listen to them frequently on Spotify. I'm familiar with the other ones. They just don't pop up for me that much. So I gotta say it was kind of weird hearing Mastodon vocals under a different mixing and production. It sounded very strange to me. It took a little bit for me to warm up to it. Killer Be Kiled is a little bit crisper sounding, a little bit cleaner sounding. Mastodon has just a very raw feel to it, especially on like the first like 3 albums. And it's just different hearing the vocals from a different perspective in terms of just how crisp they sound. And that's not to say they sound bad. They sound fantastic. It sounds so good. And it's kind of cool to be able to hear all these different bands together doing kind of the same thing, but still just sounding different. It's like, I don't know, it's like an alternate universe. A very common sound that these guys have, I would say, revolves around a little bit more Mastodon and probably Dillinger Escape Plan more than anything else. Even though each one of these guys brings a different thing to the table, but on the first song, Deconstructing Self-Destruction, it just had a very like hard rock Mastodon feel to it. A super chunky riff in the intro, which honestly, like every one of these songs could be said about. All of them have very, very chunky riffs. The vocals are very soaring, and they have a very just solid rock feel, like a hard rock feel. And the chorus sounds good, but the verses and the bridge in the song is what completely won me over. And I'm not sure, but I feel like this is about never giving up and kind of doing your own thing and screw everybody else as long as you're just doing you, which I'm kind of into also. The second song, Dream Gone Bad, has these very huge manly vocals over a very open drum beat, and the chorus has a great riff in it that makes me feel kind of nostalgic, like warm and fuzzy inside. I don't know. The third verse really brings the attitude, I guess, of the song. It's kind of slow at first. It's not like slow, but as far as like hard rock and heavy metal, it doesn't have a whole lot going on until that third verse kicks in, because then it like really amps everything up, and that's when the energy comes in. And again, that's kind of the part that won me over in this song. But I want to say that something that I noticed in this song that carries through on all the other songs is that because there's so many just brilliant musicians working on this stuff, there's so much variety going on in all of these songs. There's so many different changes. There's so many different layers to it, different things going on. The more you listen to each one of these songs, you start noticing a little bit more here and there, like something like cool bass line that's hidden in the background, or maybe like this riff does this, and you're like, whoa, I never noticed that before. Or there's like some really cool drum fills. Every one of these songs has little gems in there, especially Dream Gone Bad. Now, I wish I could say that this album just held my attention all the way through, and I loved every part of it. But on the third song, Left of Center, I got kind of lost a little bit. I wasn't that really into it. It's not a bad song, but compared to the first two songs that came before, it just wasn't quite on par. It has a basic hard rock feel. The vocals and the lyrics are actually a lot of fun, and I dig the kind of like prog inspired guitar riff in the chorus, and the song peaks at the bridge, and that's when it becomes super epic, and it's amazing, and it's sick. The last like quarter of this song is badass, but the first 3/4 of the song is kind of repetitive and, dare I say, boring. It's not a bad song. It was just kind of like, like my expectations just kept going up and up after the first two, and then I hit the third one, and it just kind of let me down a little bit. But then I got to the song From a Crowded Wound, which it's a very chuggy song. Intro, it has a guitar riff that does what it does, and it chugs hard. And then it's joined by like this haunting lead guitar part that gets replaced by the vocals. And the song just keeps building and building and building. And then eventually it climaxes, and it climaxes freaking hard. And it drops off into this valley, and then it becomes even harder and more aggressive and intense. And everything about this song is fantastic, but mainly the lyrics. I really liked the lyrics. I dare say that they're probably the best lyrics on this entire album. But one thing that like I kept thinking about this song is it's kind of a mixture of like Soundgarden meets like Tool in a way, in terms of sound, in terms of the lyrics and everything, which is not a bad thing. I mean, I love both of those bands a lot, but yeah, that's kind of like my focal point of this song was like, wow, this reminds me a lot of Soundgarden. And then also it's like 7 minutes long. It's the longest song on this album. So yeah, it kind of has a Tool thing going on, which, I mean, it's all fantastic. I also enjoyed the song that comes right after A Crowded Wound, which is The Great Purge, which has these just really big, open, fat chords in them. And the verse becomes kind of gentle and slow, where everything kind of dies out except for the drums. But it's got so much like technical musical stuff happening. It's got like an arpeggio, it's got big riffs, it's got chords, a lead guitar solo, huge epic drums. The lyrics are really well written. I believe they're based like more on like a religion thing, which I think this is like the only song on here that does it. But like everything, it's all mashed together, and it just works so well. Unfortunately, the very next song that comes after these two, Comfort for Nothing, lost me again. This is probably the most filler song that's on the album, at least to me it was. Musically, it's very just regurgitating. Everything's just regurgitated of what I've heard before. The 7 songs that come before it, 8 songs that come before it, all had the same kind of riffs, but they all had something that stood out, that was different, had some kind of cool like solo or something, and literally nothing, not a single thing stood out in Comfort for Nothing. It was very boring to me. It's the only song on here that I truly just didn't like. The more I listened to it, the more I found myself being like, okay, this sounds like everything else that I've heard before, but less. The song Intercom from Outer Storms has like this haunting bass line, and it has fantastic drums. Honestly, the drums in this song are probably the only part of it that I really enjoyed. And the vocals and intro are a little bit softer and gentler, which is different from the other songs on this album. It kind of just sounds like a Mastodon song again, especially because of the lyrics, because they're a little bit more mystical, and it has a good progression. It gets heavier and heavier. The song Filthy Vagabond, which comes in fast and hard and swinging, has a really catchy chorus, but it has woes in the chorus, which I'm not really that big of a fan of. The vocals are like the focal point of the song, vocals and the drums. I don't normally like choruses like this one, but it sounded good. I just couldn't get into the song, to be honest. Filthy Vagabond, it was catchy. It's kind of their more like singly sounding song, but just, I don't know, it was almost too mainstream sounding for me compared to the rest of them. This one sounds like the song that you want to show to people who don't like heavy metal music and don't really, like, they probably won't like this band, but you show it to them as kind of a warm-up to it, and I just wasn't feeling it. Another song that was kind of middle of the ground for me was Dead Limbs. Honestly, the vocals in this song are probably the best, but in a different way, because I really loved the screaming, distorted vocals that were in this. And it kind of has like a back and forth feel to it between the distorted screaming and the other 3 or 2 vocalists in the band. And it gives it kind of like this back and forth dialogue kind of thing. It has tons of emotion. And then another song that stuck out to me quite a bit, and I find it to be kind of the oddball song, was Animus, which is like super thrashy and almost like grindcore in a way, and like it completely caught me off guard. I had no, like, this song is just weird compared to all the other ones, but I loved it, and I really wished that they would have made the song more. It's only like a minute long. It's like a little interlude and transitional song, and I just would have liked to see what else they could have done with it, because all the other songs, I mean, it all kind of sounds the same. These guys, the thing about a supergroup is you're going to get just a group of guys that just want to have fun and they just want to make music, and they don't want to write like the next greatest thing on their like album for the main band that they're in. They're not trying to be super innovative. They're just here to have fun. And I feel like that really shows with this, because there's so many different varieties of songs, but at the same time there's a lot of like the same kind of riffs, and everything starts to sound the same after a little while. And then Animus comes in and it starts just blasting your ears off. And yeah, I just wanted to hear more of that as well. And the last song on the album, which is the title track, which is kind of like a ballady song, is Reluctant Hero. It starts out with this kind of dreary guitar passage, and I believe, I could be wrong, but I mean, I'm pretty sure it's about losing a loved one, and between like the lyrics and the little interlude parts between the vocals, it does a really good job at building up the emotion. And this song has, the outro of the song has a really good, just emotional grasp of reality of the loss of this loved one. And you just really feel it. And it's a great closing song. It's amazing. This is probably the most beautiful song on the album. It has tons of emotion. I would have liked to have seen them explore a little bit more things like this, instead of just coming in fist swinging, balls to the wall, heavy metal. I feel like another song like this might have been good too, without making the album become a little bit slower, or like having like that middle song, slow song breakup between all the heaviness, which I'm not really that big of a fan of, because just something that bands do for God knows what reason now. But I feel like it would have been cool to explore more of this sound as well too. And again, being a supergroup, it's really hard to judge these guys, and it's really hard to like be hard on the sound that they're going for. Like, there's a little bit too much chugging in these songs. The riff writing becomes a little redundant and overused, and a lot of the songs don't have like a super complex riff in it, and they stick to that a little bit too much in these songs, or they come up with something cool in the intro and it dies off and you don't hear of it again, and you're like, what the hell is that? And it's replaced by like palm muted guitar plucking, which is very, very common in heavy metal, and it becomes super old very quick. I mentioned that they sound a little bit like Tool meets Soundgarden, but there's some like Motorhead sounds in there. There's some metallic-y kind of solos here and there, which, I mean, it all sounds good. And I get, like I said, they're in it for fun. They're not in it to be super innovative and come out with a new best sounding thing. So it all works at the same time, even though some of this stuff becomes kind of tiring on your ears. Even the vocals become old after a while. You still manage to enjoy it, because you're just listening to 4 guys rock out and have a blast. And you could feel that too. That's another cool thing about this album, is you could really just feel how much fun these guys are having. So with all that said, I gotta give Reluctant Hero by Killer Be Kiled a 7.3 out of 10. It feels kind of silly giving this album a serious, like, hard rating, just because I feel like it's four guys jamming out and there's somebody in the corner with their arms crossed being like, no, I didn't like that. I don't like how you use the same riff. Nope. Don't like it. Change it. It's too redundant. You're using riffs over and over again. Change it up. I don't like it. Like, it just feels weird because, I mean, they're just having a good time jamming. But at the same time, I don't want to be in the corner alone. So I want to know what you guys think. If you listen to Redundant Hero, like, did you like it? Do you like it? Do you hate it? What would you rate it? If you haven't listened to it yet, go ahead and give it a listen, at least a couple of songs, and let me know what you think. And if you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like. If you want to be featured on Request Wednesday, go ahead and leave something down below, album, EP, single, whatever. We'll throw it up on the whiteboard and we will get you squared away. And if you do that, or you just happen to like what you see here, please don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon. That way you don't miss out on any future uploads, especially if you leave a request. It helps me out, helps you. You don't have to search my channel. You don't have to look for your request. When I do it, it just kind of pops up and it's there and you support me and we become friends over time and we start hanging out and it's all beneficial for all of us. And I hope you guys all have a good rest of your day or night, whenever you happen to be watching this, and I will talk to you guys next time.
I was